Sveiki! 2026 m. vasario 11-12 dienomis Mykolo Romerio universitete vyko mokslinė konferencija Women in Science, skirta moterų bei mergaičių mokslo dienai paminėti. Konferencijos metu pagrindinį pranešimą skaitė profesorė daktarė Paola Panarese iš Sapienza Universiteto Romoje, kuris yra didžiausia aukštojo mokslo institucija visoje Europos Sąjungoje. Profesorė tyrinėjo jaunimo medijų naudojimo įpročius, kultūrinės praktikas, lyčių lygybės aspektus medijose bei algoritminius šališkumus dirbtinio intelekto platformose. Daktarė Paola Panarese maloniai sutiko pasikalbėti apie savo tyrimų sritį, lyčių lygybės problematiką modernių medijų kontekste bei perspektyvias komunikacijos ir informacijos krypties mokslo problemas. Šis pokalbis yra viena mokslo populiarinimo veiklų pagal projektą Post-Digital Storytelling in Favor of Gender Equality, įgyvendinant valstybės biudžeto lėšomis finansuojamą projektą Ekscelencijos centrų kūrimas Mykolo Romerio Universitete, kuris vykdomas pagal Lietuvos Respublikos švietimo mokslo ir sporto ministerijos inicijuotą programą Ekscelencijos centrų iniciatyva. Dr. Paola Panarese, thank you very much for coming to Mykolas Romeris University. And you are one of the key speakers in Women in Science Conference 2026, right?
Yeah, right.
So really nice to meet you. And today we're going to just have a chat, a conversation about your research interests, research field, and in general, what's happening in media and gender studies and what people should be aware of what trends and phenomenon. And where are we all going? Are we going to technological utopia or are we going to our eternal doom? So my first question would be, what do you do for a living? What are your main areas of research and your fields of interests? What are you into these days?
Okay, first of all, thank you for having me. Thank you for your warm hospitality. Even more appreciated considering the cold outside. What I do for a living, I'm a full professor at Sapienza University of Rome, where I teach gender and media studies and sociology of communication. In particular, I've been teaching for 20 years advertising and branding. And I'm now teaching also gender and integrated communication. So I'm putting together gender media studies with advertising and branding studies. I am also the lead of some unit research studying different topics. My research lines are, for example, gender media studies, young people, media use and cultural consumptions, and also UX, user experiences.
Is your department big?
Yes, quite big. It has 100 professors.
Okay, so that's a serious
5,000 students.
Okay. Are communication studies in general popular in Italy, at least in your region?
Yes, quite popular, yeah.
Okay, so young people want to be influencers and...
I don't know. They want to be social media marketers, social media professionals. They want to be journalists.
You're doing journalism as well in the...
No, I've done some research about journalism, especially on the news coverage about femicide.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know, there is a problem in Italy about femicide. One woman every 3 days is killed because of gender-based violence and because of patriarchal culture.
Oh, so it's a cultural
phenomenon, yeah, sadly.
So with this in mind, perhaps we could speak about more contemporary issues when it comes to social media and these stereotypes when it comes to gender, and especially what new media or modern media do to young adults and teenagers, especially when it comes to self-perception and understanding the world around them. So how does social media affect self-perception of teenagers and young adults, and are there any differences in gender, how different genders view each other in social media, or maybe what information do they seek and how it shapes or transforms them?
Okay, a lot of questions.
Yeah, so...
First of all, I think that social media are deeply embedded in young people's lives. Across Europe, almost 9 out of 10 young people, teenagers and young adults use social networks every day for 4 or 5 hours at least. So
it's a daily scrolling time. Okay,
daily
that's
scrolling
almost a full working day.
At least 4 hours a day. For many young people, these platforms are the main sources of connectivity, social relations, and visibility. And most mainstream platforms like Instagram and TikTok, for example, are image-centered.
Mm-hmm.
So appearance, performance, metrics such as likes, views, and followers become measures of value for young people and teenagers in particular. These create continuous social comparison, not with people in everyday life, but with curated, filtered, and edited images. Over time, these idealized images start to feel normal, and what looks normal start to feel expected.
Mm-hmm.
Some European researchers shows that intense use of visual platforms is linked to higher body dissatisfaction, lower self-esteem, and especially among teenagers and young adults. In Italy, studies on adolescents, for example, show that filters and editing tools can distort how the body is perceived, blurring the line between what is real and what is artificial.
So if I get this straight, looking at beautiful bodies does not make you feel better.
No.
It just makes things more miserable because
Yes.
we are not perfect.
Yes, we are not perfect,
Yeah.
and yes, it affects how we perceive ourselves.
Is this universal among men and women?
Yes, it's quite universal, even if women are more worried about their thinness. They want to be thin, they want to
The
be...
weight.
Yeah, the weight, while men wanted to be muscly, strong.
and-
They want to
yeah.
be strong, yes.
What about the attributes? Because, in social media, we don't usually put things that are uncanny or boring or routine. You don't post unless you are a real social media person. That, oh my God, I'm going to work. This is such an exciting day. It's just, another Tuesday. But in general, in social media, people put something that is like extremities of their quality of life. So, good purchases, vacations, beautiful things, good food. How does this affect how do we perceive ourselves in the context of this fake luxury that we see around?
I think that we feel miserable because we have a different life. There was some years ago an experiment, a platform called Be Real. I don't know if you know it, in which you have to post a picture in the moment in which the platform says you to take this picture, even if you are in bed with pajamas or
with a snapshot of your
without
life.
makeup. But it didn't last.
People didn't like the reality.
People didn't like the reality, and the platforms probably didn't like too much reality because it's not beautiful, it's not engaging, it's not interesting to see.
But how did this trend happen? It as far as I remember, it was gradual. So it was not that everybody woke up themselves in social media. It was more like smartphones started to appear, internet was more accessible, and first social media sites appeared, and then somehow you notice that your parents who are like 70 don't watch television anymore, they watch YouTube. The transition was slow, it took almost a decade, but now we are in the phase when the short form content is ruling, and this image-based social media platforms are actually one of the main sources of information spread.
Yeah.
So speaking about this information spread, what future trends would you see that are more, not maybe worrisome, but I would say will shape media landscape when it comes to social media use?
It's hard to imagine in the future. I don't know if it will be an utopia or a dystopia. I think that a trend could be news avoidance and media fatigue, especially among younger people, because many people feel overwhelmed by constant information, negativity, conflict. So they avoid news or reduce their media consumption, not because they're not interested, but because media feel emotionally exhausting.
This is related with what? With the constant stream of information?
Yeah, and with the quantity of contents and the quality of contents.
Okay, so the abundance that we have too much of it. But on the other hand, we can choose, right? I can choose not to see things. I can choose to follow people that show me palms and beaches and cocktails.
You can partially choose because algorithm systems follow you and present what they think you would like. So you are not really totally free of choosing what you want to see.
Are these algorithms somehow doing things more intelligently, or are they just bashing you with the information that you consume?
I don't think they are intelligent. I think that they are developed to engage you, to maintain you online. So they try to imagine what do you like. Probably you have already experienced the digital advertising that present you something that you have searched in the past.
Yeah, for sure.
Probably,
this is scary.
Yeah, probably you have already bought it, but it continues to present it over time. So I don't think it's really intelligent.
The problem is that it does just not offers you for the things you search. Sometimes it offers you for the things you talked about, or offers to accept people to your social circles who you met, but you never exchanged anything. So that's very peculiar ways of how these things are programmed and how much data is being stored about us. And in the same sense, can we say that we choose our own content? If I watch my cat videos, is this because I like cat videos, or is it just because I'm following the crumbs of the algorithm and becoming like a mindless slave?
I think it's both.
It's both. Okay.
Probably, do you like cats or not? Or the algorithm makes you like cats.
Are there any particular differences in how men and women are being portrayed in this new media landscape?
Yes, but I don't think that is a new media thing. I think that men and women have been always portrayed in different ways in media. Also in the old television that my parents that are in their 70s still watch all the time. Because in Italy we have a very old population and we have a very strong television contents. So television,
still,
yes,
up to this day,
more than 95% of the population still watch television every day. And there is a huge difference about what is represented in television, that is a conservative, traditional tool of communication, and what is represented in social media.
There's a gap.
There's a gap, yes. There is a difference because in television we still watch men and women in traditional roles. For example, women as caregivers, mothers, wives, in bathroom, in kitchen, doing preparing meals, or as decorative characters. And men are represented as strong decision makers. While on social media, we can see different images. We can see representation and auto-representation more diverse, even if we have some constraints also in social media. It depends on the bubble we attend on social media.
So television on this, I will call it legacy media, mostly panders to more older strata of the population, as I understand. Yes. That's why they uphold these type of content and stereotypes. How vivid are the stereotypes on gender roles in Italian television? Are women sexualized? Are men overly, represented as overly macho? How strong is this imprint? And is this changing? Or is it just, the younger generation goes to social media and the older generation still watches the old family dramas and with traditional gender roles?
It is slowly changing, but I think that there is a big difference in the publics of these two media. In television, there are strong stereotypes related to men and women, while in social media there is wider representation, variety in representations, because they are followed especially by young people.
Is Italian context different somehow from other European countries that you know of?
Yes, because we have a very homogeneous and traditional culture. I think that is near to some other Mediterranean countries, Spain, Greece, and I think it's quite different from Northern European countries.
And speaking about these stereotypes, what harm, or maybe good, I don't know, what are they doing to the society, and our quality of life and well-being in general as humans?
They affect, of course, our lives because especially where stereotypes are so strong, they present limited roles for men and women. So they're limiting our possibility in life. For example, women in Italian television are represented especially as mothers, caregivers, not workers, or workers doing a lot of things to balance private life and work because family concerns to mother.
So mother, like an archetype of the mother is very strong in the culture, as I understand, right?
Yes.
And everything revolves around that. So it's kind of an appraisal, but at the same time a very limiting role.
Yes.
For someone to be in. And media kind of shapes this as a norm still, as I understand. Are there any, how do you call it, glass ceiling, I think, effect that happens because of this? Is it persistent in Italian culture and society? It is.
Yes, it's still hard to imagine women and men in roles that are not traditional. Yes.
But the consequences are what, like moral, or you're just going to be side-looked at, like you're a weirdo if you seek for a career that is not stereotypical?
No, I don't know. I think that it's more moral. And I think that it affects our perception of relations. It affects our career paths. I think that it is limiting. We probably don't even see this limitation. So it is as the glass ceiling.
Yeah, as I understand from our conversation, it's more like horizontally implemented. So it's not like a institutional demand. No,
probably it's a glass labyrinth.
Okay, so you are expected to behave in a certain way.
Yes.
So this is more about like traditional media. Now let's get back to the more modern social media. And with social media, we have, of course, the dark horses, various pornography sites, more capabilities for male and female, but usually mostly women, that go into adult industry, for example, which is easy money, it seems, but it has all kinds of negative consequences. Is this a trend in Italy as well?
Yes, I think it's a trend also because of a neoliberal and post-feminist narrative spreading on social media. A narrative that says that women can be whatever they want, and they can also have power in relationship using their body. The problem is that the only power for women relies on their body. They have the power to use their body to have attention, engagement, money on these adult contents platforms, but they have no other power beyond that, beyond the use of the body. So I think it's
basically
a problem.
It's like a reductionist approach.
Yes, it's not an explicit discourse. It's hidden narrative in the social media representation. You have all the power you want, but the privilege of women lies only in the possibility of use their body to gain attention. In these regards, it's interesting that young men on social media and in some research tell that women have a lot more power on social media because they have the power of visibility of the body, they can gain attention more easily than them. For example, the gamers on Twitch say that...
the streamers.
The gamers say that women gamers can gain attention because they can show their body during the streaming while men can't. I think that there is a limitation in this power for women, because it's only linked to a body that has to be normative, has to be thin, young, white.
But there's a silver lining to everything, because now we can use artificial intelligence and we can use computer-generated imagery in order to enhance ourselves. If godly powers didn't give us the looks we want, maybe we can create the looks that we can using all these fancy equipment, and it's getting cheaper and cheaper. And how do you think is this affecting, and I'm speaking not only probably about AI and CGI in general, but also about like deep fakes. How is it affecting our capability to understand what is true, what is fake? How does this affect our perception of self?
I think that it can strongly affect our perception because AI characters are represented as perfect, as with a smooth skin. They are symmetrical, even more symmetrical than human beings. Thin, beautiful. They have regular traits. So we are even more pressed, we are even more influenced by the difference between real persons and AI-generated persons. So I think that there is a huge impact on us, on our self-esteem, our self-perception.
You touched a very interesting point about how AI generates images, because AI is trained on something, right?
Yeah.
So it's trained on the creations of humans, of the past data. Since you are analyzing and researching gender roles in media, how do these roles transcend into AI? What answers are we given? What type of images are we being generated? And is this field kind of researched in Italy or analyzed or talked about? Is this like considered as an important domain, or is it just floats and nobody knows what to do with this AI beast in general?
It is an important domain. It has been researched. I am carrying out a research in inclusive machine learning systems using art and culture for tackling gender and ethnicity stereotypes. Is a research about gender and racial bias in AI. And we found that bias emerged from dataset that are partial situated. That includes everything that is on the internet.
Just from the training data
Just from the
okay.
Yes, in the first phase, in the training phase. It is developed using algorithms that are made by people with their own view of life, their own values, partial values. Also in the system, in the development of the system, there could be some biases. And users too in machine learning systems, because AI is also in many cases a machine learning tool, a machine learning system. Also users with their feedback, with their questions, with their interaction can train the system.
So the system is
some biases. So
is being taught by the users, and it also can shift.
Yes.
Are there any safeguards or methods of how to correct these type of biases?
Yes, we can work on data and data sets with more inclusive, rich images and contents, but it's not simple. We can form and train the developers to see the biases. It's interesting that in our research we found that the developers still believe in the myth of neutrality, the algorithm neutrality. They say to us that, because we have done 35 interviews to developers, they say to us that algorithms are neutral because they are mathematical elaboration. So mathematics is objective, so algorithm doesn't have problems of inclusivity or unbalanced. So it's interesting. Also users found that AI is a mean to communicate, to interact, to have some suggestions about well-being or appearance or a lot of things. They don't perceive that is a statistical system that put together sentences and words on the base of the possibility, the probability that they come together. The system doesn't understand the meaning of what it's saying. So we trust a system that is based on statistics.
Actually, it's pretty interesting how close our life comes to a fiction.
Yeah.
There was a film with Joaquin Phoenix called Her, I think. I don't know if you've seen
yes,
it.
I know.
If you've seen it, it's basically a man falls in love to an operating system, and the operating system evolves into a point when it says, okay, you're just one of the many, and I am more than you all together, and I need to leave you now because you're humans to have too pesky of a minds for me to deal with you. But for humans, it was like a real attachment to this algorithmic.
Because they are perfect.
Yeah,
they know us. They seem to know us. They are kind. They are understanding. They are.
But as I understand this AI perfection is actually a myth, because one way or the other we cannot avoid the biases. And even if you say, okay, we can train people on inclusivity, who's making the decision how much inclusivity is enough, Yeah. So it's always about who's supervising the supervisor. Are there any technical ways of how you could just algorithmic rule-based systems where you could check the logics?
I think that there are only technical fixing methods, while we have to work on cultural methods, not only fixing. Also because the fairness of the systems depends on the context, depends on the starting point. The fairness is a concept that has to be situated, while developers consider fairness as a technical tool and a technical concept that can fix all systems. So there is a huge difference in perceptions between developers and researchers studying AI systems.
Would you see this as a gap between different study fields? Because people who are programming stuff are coming from engineering and computer science, and people who are more interested into gender studies or recognizing bias that they come from social studies or humanities, usually from critical theory background. Is there a way how to bridge this gap without stirring a conflict, which sometimes is being seen when these debates come into public discourse?
I think that there is a knowledge gap, and I think that these two different fields of knowledge don't speak the same language. My research images is carried out by two units of research. One made by art historians, sociologists, and one computer scientist, and the other one is from National Cancer Research in Italy, that is a big organization for national research, is made by computer scientists and engineer. And in the first time of this research, in the first month of this research, we can't understand each other. They spoke the language of engineering, they spoke the language of technical fixing, they spoke the language of neutrality of the system because it's a system, an object. Yes. While we're talking about biases, cultural problems, so there is a huge gap that needs to be reduced, probably working together.
So it's probably also clashing philosophies, because if you come from very interpretative approach,
yes.
Where the truth is subjective, and you argue with someone who is like a positivist, which says, okay, it's not.
No,
the truth exists on its own. It's very hard to find a common ground and to negotiate these things. But they need to be negotiated because
we are negotiated. Yeah. And feminist epistemology taught us that every knowledge is situated. So the first thing we do when we start a research is to say, I am a woman, I'm 40 years old, I'm studying this topic from this perspective, I'm studying it now. And this position is important to comprehend, to interpret what I'm recovering, what I'm studying, because it impacts what I'm studying.
Sprinkling from this philosophical differences in how we see the genesis of truth, there are more and more young people who follow various influencers online, follow their truths, listen to their opinions, and these people sometimes do bigger influence than scientists and people who spend years researching certain phenomenon. How does this affect our ability to think? Because you were speaking a little bit about inflation of information, and we are getting tired of the noise. How to find truth in these voices of loud influencers and wannabes and people who claim and speak loud, but not necessarily are speaking in the worlds of science and objective knowledge.
I think that now there is a shift from influencer power to content creators' power. At least in Italy, I have been seeing this shift because influencers, they are losing followers, likes, because they only base their power on visibility, not on contents, while there is a strong request for contents, for knowledge, for competence in specific fields.
People are actually having a thirst for quality information.
Yes.
From gender and media studies, what you would say, like for the aspiring researchers, what is the like hot topic of today's or interesting topic of today's where they could find their niche and start, digging in and see how modern media changes our perceptions, behaviors, and gender stereotypes?
There are a lot of topics that are interesting and promising in the future, I think. I think that an interesting topic, but it's not my main line of research, is manosphere, the ecosystem populated by misogynistic men that think that women and feminists are their enemy. They are in crisis because of the evolution of women role in society and the feminist discourse. So they, I don't know.
It's like this anti-feminist movement.
Yes.
Where do they cluster?
They are in groups, in communities on Facebook, Instagram too. They have different kinds of subgroups. For example, there are the so-called pick-up artists that teach other men how to pick up women, considered as object, as
be an alpha male.
Be an alpha male. There are the real misogynist men that attack women with a speech because women are considered their enemy.
Okay, so that's an area where
that's a backlash to the feminist woman movement.
Will there ever be peace?
I don't think so. I'm not an optimistic. I don't think so. I think that media can put together different contents, often polarized in these times, because algorithm systems tend to polarize, tend to put different position in radical distance to engage people more easily.
Okay, Paola, thank you very much for this conversation. Thank you a lot for coming to Lithuania. Thank you a lot for participating in our Women in Science scientific conference. We're really proud of it. And thank you for giving a keynote speech. And I hope you like our university. I hope you like stay here in Lithuania. I hope you enjoyed the old town of Vilnius, which actually was practically made by Italian architects. That's why we have so much Baroque architecture.
Thank you for this welcoming hospitality. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you and bye.